The movie starts with a terrifying scene. A young girl sits frozen as drug lord guns down her parents right before her eyes. But she doesn't cry, forcing herself to stay calm. The gang leader sits across from her, gun pointed straight at her head.
Why don't you just give me that little thing? Would you do that? You're a smart girl. What do you want?
But she doesn't flinch. Under the table, her hand already positioned, ready to strike back.
You killed Don Luis.
She bolts to the bathroom, squeezing her tiny body through the window. Hiding under a concrete slab, she manages to stay out of the killer's sight. With no other choice, she swallows a microchip, her only ticket to survival. What follows is a breathless chase through the slums, where she nimbly darts between hiding spots, finding brief safety in a water tank. Just when she thinks she's in the clear, she spots the drug lord's car coming after her. Without hesitation, she slides into a sewer drain, finally shaking off her hunters. The girl is Cataleya, named for a Colombian orchid. Her father, Fabio, had been laundering money for a powerful drug cartel. Wanting a better future for his daughter, he had planned to leave the organization. Luis, the drug lord, smiled and said he would miss him.
To the future.
But then quietly signaled his man Marco to take Fabio out.
Kill this motherfucker.
But Fabio was no fool. He knew exactly what happened to people who tried to leave the drug trade. His boss made sure of that. Back at home, Fabio hands his daughter a chip containing all the evidence of Don Luis's illegal operations, her ticket out if things go south. He gives her his brother's address too, along with a name card and a necklace bearing a Cataleya orchid, their family symbol.
Never forget where you came from.
Minutes later, Marco storms in with his cartel thugs, gunning down Fabio, his wife, and everyone else in sight. After her sewer escape, Cataleya makes her way to the US Embassy, where agents question her about her father.
Dead.
Then he asks if he gave her anything. She forces herself to throw up, producing the microchip that records of all Don Luis's activities. The agent stares at her in amazement.
Do you know what this is?
Yes. My passport.
In exchange, they offer to get her out of the country with papers. A CIA agent escorts her to Miami, but Cataleya slips away during a bathroom break. She snags a bus ticket to Chicago, just where her father told her to go. There, she finds her uncle Emilio, who breaks down and hugs her tight. Finally feeling safe, Cataleya let it go and sobs in his arms.
It's okay. You're safe now.
The next day, Emilio takes her to a private prep school, bribing the principal to admit her mid-year. Cataleya's furious as they leave. School isn't going to teach her what she really needs to know. What she needs is to learn how to be a killer.
You don't want to help me? I'll do it myself.
Out of nowhere, Emilio pulls a revolver and shoots at a random car, causing it crash. He lays it out plain. Killers for hire are everywhere. He can train her, but she'll be dead within 5 years if she goes down that path.
If you want to be a killer and survive, you got to be a smart one. You have to know things besides how to pull a trigger. You have to know how the world works, how people think. You gotta learn and understand how to be psychological.
Cataleya takes his words to heart. Years later, two cops are shooting the breeze about their wives when a drunk driver slams into them. Out stumbles a woman, words slurring. They arrest her, and we catch a glimpse of a familiar floral necklace. It's Cataleya, all grown up. They take her to the police station, where she's booked for DUI
Throw up. Oh, no. Get her out of here.
and locked up overnight. She goes to sleep. That night, U.S. Marshal show up with a prisoner. As they lock him up, Cataleya stirs. Turns out the whole drunk act was just her way in. This prisoner's her real target. She slips into a tight black outfit and picks the lock, fishing a spoon from her cell's coffee cup. She works fast, redirecting cameras, grabbing water from the cooler, heading to the electrical room. With just the cup and spoon, she creates sparks, then vanishes into the vents. Seconds later, water leaks, causing a power short. Before the power resets, Cataleya drops down through the now stopped fan. She lands in the men's bathroom. The guard watching the prisoner never sees it coming. She drags his body in front of the camera, a move that throws doors open again. Then she opens the cell and shoots the prisoner multiple times. The marshal hears the shots and run to the cell, finding the guard awake with a gun. Cataleya's framed him perfectly, buying her precious escape time. While they tear the building apart looking for someone, she's ghosting behind walls. Coast clear, she slides back through the vents, locks herself in her cell, and changes back. When the marshals finally find her, she's the picture of innocence, seemingly fast asleep. They haven't got a clue. Next morning, they take her prints and cut her loose. Outside, she peels off the latex skin, hiding someone else's fingerprints. Back home, she dances to music and takes a long, hot shower. Later, she shows up at Danny's place. He's an artist, almost her boyfriend, who only knows her as Jennifer.
Are we ever gonna go on a normal date together?
They spend a passionate night together, but by sunrise, she's gone. clearly scared to let him see who she really is. FBI agent Ross hits the prison, figuring out this victim is just the latest in a string of 22 murders they've been chasing for 4 years. They call the murderer Tag Killer for leaving a mark on the chest, a Cataleya orchid. Meanwhile, CIA agent Richard rolls up to a fortress of a mansion in New Orleans. It's Don Luis's place. He's been living large, dodging prosecution. Richard shows him the prison hit, but Luis plays dumb. Richard reminds him of their sweet deal with the CIA. Witness protection and keeping his coke business running. All for information. But Richard knows something's up, and Luis knows exactly what it is.
I had nothing to do with this.
Then find out who did.
The moment Richard's gone, Luis puts Marco on cleanup duty. Luis has a pretty good idea Cataleya's behind these kills. Since they failed to take her out the first time, now they need to finish the job. Meanwhile, Cataleya visits Emilio. He slaps down a paper with her calling card on it, absolutely livid. Turns out he promised his brother he'd keep her safe. This revenge path was never what he wanted for her. To protect her, Emilio always farms out her jobs.
It's not just about you, okay? Cataleya. There's me, Mama, the family.
But Cataleya won't budge. She's not stopping until Luis is dead. Sighing, Emilio hands her the next job. A hedge fund manager pulled off a $50 billion Ponzi scheme and fled the States. People want him dead. At the FBI office, Ross reviews the surveillance footage. Some of his agents think the woman on tape is their killer, but Ross can't wrap his head around a woman being this type of assassin. Meanwhile, Cataleya is at her office, feeding steaks to her 2 massive dogs. Inside, she finds Pepe, Emilio's friend, who handles her weapons and cars. She heads to her safe, pulls out her fake passports, and finds one for Mexico. The hedge fund manager's living large in his mansion, surrounded by beautiful women who wouldn't give him a second glance without his stolen billions. One woman mentions how the sharks in his pool ignore her, but he tells her they'd be her best friends if she'd just bleed a little.
All the way down to your clean, stripped bones.
He tells his security he needs extra men tonight. Cataleya swims through the pool, the sharks paying her no mind, and slips in through the glass panel. The manager wakes up, noticing the thief and a flower pattern drawn on his chest. He circles the mansion, finding all his guards on ground, lifeless. Grabbing 2 guns, he heads to the pool, where he finds a Cataleya flower. Cataleya reveals herself, sitting in a chair. He tries shooting her, but the guns are empty. She puts a bullet in his leg. He begs for his life,
Whatever they're paying, I double it. Please don't kill me.
but she shoots him in the chest, sending him into the outdoor pool. The water turns red, and the sharks make quick work of him. Back stateside, Cataleya goes to Danny's place, but he's out checking galleries. She curls up in his bed, clutching his shirt tight. It's clear she cares deeply for him, but she's terrified to show it. Meanwhile, Ross is studying the tag killer's calling card when a mailroom guy gives him a crucial tip. It's a Cataleya flower, only found in Colombia. Ross tries connecting this to unsolved Colombian cases, but hits a CIA roadblock. He calls Richard for clearance, but Richard dodges the question.
Listen, Agent Ross, I can't give any information out over the phone.
He rings Luis, telling him to handle this before Agent Ross connects the dots. Luis sends Marco to track Cataleya, ordering him to question every Colombian until they find her family. Danny comes home, they embrace and spend the night together. It's noon now. Danny quickly snaps a photo of Cataleya sleeping. He wakes her with breakfast. Cataleya panics. She has to leave.
I don't understand why.
I'm sorry, I have to go.
Danny's left confused, wondering what he did wrong. Cataleya meets with Emilio, who's furious after seeing the paper. Luis's men are looking for her. 8 men gunned down in a bar, one of them Emilio's friend. Cataleya refuses to back down, but Emilio tells her it's not just about her anymore. It's about the family she has left, and she's putting them all in danger. After his son died, he killed many people, but it changed nothing. It just put his family at risk.
I still pray that you find a life away from this, because no one in our entire family has a chance for one.
Emilio leaves her with a photo of her parents, reminding her of what she still has to lose. Cataleya breaks down, crying. She goes to church with Emilio and her grandmother, seemingly ready to give up her quest for revenge. At a coffee shop, Danny tells a friend about his girlfriend Jennifer, saying he's fallen for her but knows nothing about her. The friend sees the photo and is blown away by how hot she is. While Danny's distracted by a parking ticket, his friend grabs the phone with the photo and calls his contact at the police station. He asks her to check out Jennifer just to make sure she's legit and Danny won't get hurt. The guy has no idea what he's just set in motion.
You'll thank me later.
Ross is at his computer when Cataleya's photo pops up. He traces the signal to another police station and arrests the tech who ran the search. Ross compares the photo to the prison surveillance footage. It's a perfect match. Cataleya is the murderer. Back home, she calls Danny, trying to express her feelings. When Danny mentions the photo, she freezes, asking who else saw it.
Who else saw the picture, Danny?
Nobody. Why?
He mentions his friend, and she quickly scans her apartment. SWAT's already there to arrest her. She turns on the shower, escapes through the pipes. She races through several apartments, knocking out a tenant. In the bathroom, she finds her pre-planted zipline and sniper rifle. She sets up explosives on the wall. When Ross and his agents blow her apartment door, she triggers her own explosion. She ziplines down a pipe to the garage, takes out the cameras, then slips into another vent while SWAT searches the garage. She makes it to the subway and slips away. At Emilio's house, she finds the place ransacked. She discovers her grandmother lying in the kitchen, lifeless, and breaks down. Searching for Emilio, she finds him tied to a chair, dead. He was clearly tortured. Cataleya tells him she's sorry, screaming in a mix of grief and rage. Ross gets home to find Cataleya waiting with a gun. She motions him to sit. She reveals she's rigged his chair with pressure-sensitive explosives. He can't move. The Cataleya flower tag was meant to call out Don Luis, but he only noticed now.
This morning, he took the last piece of me.
Cataleya tells Ross he'd better get intel on Don Luis from the CIA.
Get me Luis Sandoval, because if you don't, you're gonna go to a funeral every week.
She promises the bomb will be disarmed once she leaves. And it is. Ross confronts Richard with the situation. Richard won't budge. Then, Ross gets a call. It's Cataleya. Either Richard gives up the address, or he dies. Richard scoffs, bragging about his bulletproof windows.
You started that glass is tempered to resist a direct hit by 57mm ordnance.
But Cataleya has an answer for that. Richard caves and gives up the address. Cataleya heads to Pepe's garage, loads up on weapons, and takes a moment with her 2 dogs, watching them. She grabs an armored truck and heads for Don Luis's place. Inside his mansion, Marco's briefing his men on how to handle Cataleya. Luis hears something, a rocket screaming toward them. The blast tears the room apart. Marco yanks Luis up as they try to get him out. 4 men pile into a car to escort Luis. Cataleya rams them with her truck, totaling their vehicle. She jumps out, pumping bullets into the car, taking them down. In an explosive firefight, she methodically eliminates Luis and Marco's men. Marco stashes Luis in a safe room while he goes after Cataleya. After a series of quick exchanges, only Marco and one other guy are left. Cataleya drops the last man, then faces off with Marco. They go hand to hand, trading control of Cataleya's gun. She starts choking him with a towel. Marco grabs the gun to shoot, but Cataleya pops out the clip, rips off the slide, and drives it into his neck, finishing him. Luis, realizing he's the last man standing, but thinking Cataleya doesn't know where he is, leaves his safe room in a truck. A garbage truck blindsides him, forcing him into a dead end. Marco's phone rings. It's Cataleya. Luis taunts her, saying she'll never kill him, she never had him. Luis turns around to find Cataleya's 2 dogs.
Eat.
They tear him apart, completing her revenge. Danny's being held by Ross and the FBI. He tells them what little he knows. Ross says he's not under arrest, but still has questions. Then Danny gets Cataleya's call. She tells him she's okay. They have 40 seconds before the trace. Enough time for 3 questions. He asks her real name. She tells him it's Cataleya. Danny asks if his little bird will ever come back. An agent tells Ross they've got Cataleya's call to Danny. They rush back.
Last question.
I love you.
Danny says, bringing tears to Cataleya's eyes. Ross orders him to keep her on the line, but she hangs up before they can get anything. Ross stares at the phone, tells Danny he can go. Cataleya slips on her sunglasses and boards a bus to parts unknown.